Hello and welcome to Talk of the Gamers match preview of West Ham United against Arsenal. Managerless against soon to be managerless. Perhaps it depends who you believe and what you wish for. With Gonzo as always, and we've got a little guest. You can't see him, but he is on air. We'll get to him in a second. Before we do, Gonzo, can I get your thoughts on Arsenal, please?
Yeah, I mean, normally we go into details about players and managers and this, that, and the other, but I think just the general vibe of the club is probably what should be noted here. I think in many respects they're the first failed stadium transition, if you like. Now, I know some people might think the Emirates is a glorious stadium designed by Arsene Wenger and all of that stuff, agreed. I don't know what the stats are. I think they maybe haven't won a title since they left Highbury. I might be wrong. Don't know. But it certainly hasn't yielded the rich success that they hoped they would. What they built, when they built it, and they ironically turned Highbury into flats. Sound familiar? What happened was there was a promise of riches in the future. And what happened was Wenger had to tighten the purse strings. So they probably went for a good 10-year period by not spending any money. Obviously, the carrot or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow was meant to yield that they could compete with the best teams in the world. Well, I think they've got there and they just haven't been able to compete with the best teams in the world. And while possibly a bigger model and a bigger version of us, I think there's definitely similarities there. And I think what really drove it home was for the last night game against Brighton, even though it was a Premier League game, even though there were they have an Arsenal legend in charge and they've got rid of the manager that they didn't want to be there, I still think that the stadium was 2/3 full or something like that. They got big problems. There's no doubt about it.
Well, before we ask the guy about the big problems, this episode of the preview is sponsored by One Football, the ultimate football app for you, regardless of who you support, whether you're Arsenal, whether you're West Ham, or where you're watching this and you don't support either. Get it downloaded, it's completely free, link is in the description. Select what notifications you want, select who you want to follow and get them straight to your phone. So it's 7 o'clock on Monday, you will ping ping, you'll get the team lineups through to your phone, hopefully telling you that Martin's still in goal and hopefully telling you that Mikel Antonio is starting, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Now on the line we've got an Arsenal fan who he'll have a lot of knowledge on West Ham, so this should be interesting. We've got Alan Alger of Betway. Alan, how are you doing tonight?
Evening, guys. Very well, thank you.
Can we get your evaluation on Arsenal? I mean, it's a bit of a mess at the minute, so it'd be interesting to hear what you think's going on.
Well, yeah, just backing up Gonzo's point, we haven't won a title since we left Highbury. The last title was around 2003, 2004. Since then, obviously, we've won 3 FA Cups while we've been at the Emirates. That a lot of clubs would take that, especially in that period. But we paid the highest ticket prices in world football. We, as Gonzo also said, we were promised a bit of a dream when we came to the Emirates, and we were told that the squad wouldn't suffer, that there was a lot of money to be made from additional hospitality and different things that the club could gain from having a huge modern stadium. But those things just didn't come to fruition at all. And it's a bit like it's an interesting one. It's a bit like like a conspiracy or something like that, like a conspiracy theory, because there are lots of different tangents that people approach this from and say, I think it's to do with the new owner, Kroenke. I think it's to do with a new stadium. I think it's to do with a new manager that they got in. But actually, you often see with things like this, it's usually a combination of everything and nothing too much. For instance, there are still a lot of huge fans of Arsene Wenger at the club, and they're reveling in this at the moment, the bad form that Arsenal are in. They're saying, how dare we disagree with Wenger, get rid of Wenger, and we're reaping the rewards for this. And it's totally not true. In fact, if anything, the main demise for Arsenal, or the steady decline, was started because there were people at the club that believed Wenger could do no wrong. he had a phenomenal start to his Arsenal career, and he wasn't ever questioned. So therefore, when he was making big decisions towards the end, they still treated him as if he was the person that didn't do anything wrong or hadn't done anything wrong. And he got away with that for too long, and too many of those decisions were actually wrong in the end. He brought in defenders that couldn't defend. He couldn't form a reasonable game plan for lots of the big games that we played. We used to get smashed in those big games, and it all just fell apart. But because of the goodwill from his early period at the club, they allowed that to stagnate. And it's actually a similar thing that happened to Nottingham Forest under Brian Clough, albeit in a more condensed period. Because he was such a legend at the club, they didn't actually arrest their slide quick enough because they thought, well, how on earth can we get rid of him? And someone should have been ruthless about 10 years ago and said to Wenger, the game's moved on, it's moved past you, you're making poor decisions now, maybe you're not as good a manager as we all thought, and let's start a different path for Arsenal. So that's one thing. The stadium certainly is a big effect. The ownership, the disinterested ownership is another big thing. And obviously, the replacement for Wenger wasn't good enough.
Gonzo, cheers, Alan. We'll get back to you in a second. Gonzo, are you surprised how bad Arsenal have been this season in particular? I mean, last night their fans were saying, we're closer to the bottom four than the top four now, and we've got, I know we are going to laugh at this, but they've got West Ham next, then they've got Manchester City, then around the corner they've got Chelsea and Man United as well. It's not getting any easier for them.
No, absolutely. I'm surprised because Emery came in and Emery had pedigree, and particularly European pedigree from his previous job, and even European pedigree from this job because he got them through to the Europa Cup final this season. You have to be surprised how badly they're doing. It's their worst run since 1977, fun enough, which was the Queen's Silver Jubilee, but for a few youngsters out there. And but we shouldn't really be surprised. Actually, listening to Alan speak there, he was talking about Nottingham Forest. Actually reminds me of Manchester United as well, because he's saying like Wenger was omnipotent, basically. Well, Ferguson was the same, but the one thing they do both have in common is there was both a massive change at the top above them at the time. So I think Ferguson, there was just this change. David Gill went as well, and I just wonder if Peter Hillwood, David Dean, was it Lady Bracewell Smith, possibly her name was. I think if they had have stayed on, then they might have been the ones to slap Wenger's wrist and say, "Oi, no, naughty boy, don't do that. We're going to move on." And you can see how it's snowballed to this season. That they're really poor. I mean, and possibly it looks, Gio, possibly our only chance of winning the game. That's how poor they seem to be, really.
I think it's a strange one. I thought they'd do alright this season. I thought last season they did okay. They got to Europa League final, and as an Arsenal fan I can understand why that's not enough for you, but as someone that's not an Arsenal fan, I think that's actually more than enough for you, especially if you do win it. I'd consider that a successful season, but perhaps that's speaking as a fan of a football club that's had no trophies since I've been born, apart from the Betway Cup, of course, Alan. We won that once. But I think for such a big club, you've only got one world-class player, in my opinion. With Aubameyang, you've got players with world-class ability, but to be the world-class player, you need consistency applied to that, and that's not something that those players with the ability have. Whether it's Ozil or Lacazette or whatever, they don't have the consistency to be in the upper tier. But I do think you've got Aubameyang. I think they've had an issue. I think Emery was struggling to get Aubameyang and Lacazette into the same starting 11 rather than just leaving one out. I think he was trying to squeeze them both in. It was completely affecting the rest of the team and the rest of the structure a little bit. And I watched them last night against Brighton, and I think Freddie's doing the same thing. He's trying to get Ozil in there along with Lacazette, Aubameyang, and it's just not working. He had Aubameyang and Ozil playing out wide at home to Brighton, both of them out wide, and both players wanted to be in the middle, so they kept coming inside. It was just, we say at West Ham we're a circus, but I'll tell you something, I think Arsenal are Zippo Circus. They're the best circus in town. They're the bigger one. And if it wasn't for those in Man United, it would be even worse, even more jeery being a West Ham fan, because at least you've got someone else to look at and go, well, at least it's not just us, is it? Alan, just quickly, who do you want as the manager? A lot of talk, Brendan Rodgers was the fans' pick, if you like. He signed a new deal at Leicester today, so that's that one as unlikely as it was, scored off the list. Who are you hoping comes in?
Rodgers is an interesting one because before Emery got the job, Rodgers was favourite in the market and it looked to be quite informed money. He went odds on to get the job, and I think he was interviewed, or certainly had a preliminary interview, and a lot of Arsenal fans were they actually looked at that in horror and thought, how can we get Brendan Rodgers? They just didn't rate him at all. Obviously, since the job he's done at Leicester, a lot of those fans are now saying they'd gladly take him. But I'm not so sure it's as simple as that. And I think someone like Brendan Rodgers, he could be good at Leicester, but the pressure at Arsenal and the fact that, you mentioned only one world-class player in the squad. I'd even argue Aubameyang isn't really showing it at the moment. He's getting goals because he's really the only one that our chances are falling to. But he's not entirely prolific and does have lots of games where he goes missing. So in effect, you probably take Jamie Vardy, James Maddison and the players that Rodgers has got in his squad and say, although the prestige of Leicester isn't as big, the prestige of Arsenal compared to the squad, I'm not surprised he signed that new deal today, even if it is to make it more difficult for Arsenal to prize him away. I would have taken Pochettino. I think he's someone that does organise the team well. I don't think there's anything in the hearts of the Arsenal fans that would not want an ex-Tottenham manager as long as he came in and did well for us. Because if he does do that, it counts for even more. And I think a lot of fans already got their head around that and were quite happy with that. Allegri went favourite last week for the job. He's talked about taking on a new project today. He didn't really hint at the club or the place, but I think he could be okay. And then outside of that, I mean, you've had some names mentioned even further towards the bottom of the Premier League. You've had Eddie Howe mentioned a couple of times. Even Chris Wilder got a mention, and he was in at 33-1. You really cannot see Arsenal doing that because the ownership of the club now, I think, it's telling that Unai Emery got his job off the back of a very good PowerPoint presentation. He was actually presenting to businessmen. So that was the way to do it. If you went in there with a decent football CV, and he had a half-decent one, as you say, especially with the European pedigree and the Europa League stuff, but he presented to businessmen as a businessman and got the job off the back of a decent PowerPoint presentation. They probably need to ignore that approach this time.
Brilliant. Gonzo, last question on Arsenal. As always, players you admire the most?
Well, yeah, obviously you've got the obvious ones there. We did our show a few weeks back about we were categorising players, and we both had Aubameyang in the world-class category. He is fantastic. Clearly, he's taken a dip in form at the moment, but you're bound to if the team's not performing and the players are around you. I'm sure he cuts a forlorn and frustrated figure. I tell you who I do like, and it might sound a bit weird. I don't really know what's happened. Sorry, just on Aubameyang. It's Aubameyang and Lacazette, and them drifting wide is a little bit of an issue. It's almost they've struggled, or Emery struggled to find a way to include both of them in the team on a regular basis, and maybe they're missing Alex Iwobi, which was never a phrase I ever thought would come out of my mouth.
No, not having that.
I've just said it. The player I like, I think actually I would like at West Ham is Torreira. I like Torreira. I think he's a really good player. I think he's industrious. I think he's quick enough. I think he's got that little pit bull thing about him. I think he can pass, he can tackle, he can do a little bit of everything. He's in many respects, as I say, the type of player I've been crying out for at West Ham. I actually, believe it or not, like David Luiz, but David Luiz needs to have, for me, needs to play in a back three with some really, alongside a couple of really tough centre-backs to get the best out of him. I don't think he's instantly turned into a bad player, but you can't play him in and amongst a load of other fancy Dan defenders. It's just never going to work.
Guendouzi for me, I think he's fantastic in the centre midfield for Arsenal. They really missed him last night. Kieran Tierney, of course, I'm going to have to pick Kieran Tierney, aren't I? But I do think they've got left back is going to be a top left back in the Premier League. There's someone they just need to start playing him now instead of Kolasinac. I think Leno's an all right keeper, has a lot to do. I think their centre backs though are just dreadful. Luis, he just, speak of the circus. He looks like a clown, and he's playing like a clown at the minute. Mustafi is just awful. I mean, because we're West Ham, I wouldn't take Mustafi here, and that says something. I think Bellerin's pace, Ryan Fredericks' pace gets him out of jail a few times. Pepe looks like a £72 million Enner Valencia. When it comes to flop of the season, actually there's two Arsenal players here. There's two Arsenal players. When it comes to flop of the season, Pepe's an early contender for that because of his price tag. He started to look okay under Emery at the end of his reign, but he's just... It's almost like they bought the player rather than the position. But the one player I've been disappointed with the most out of the whole Premier League this season is Cabellos. When he signed for Arsenal, I've seen him in the summer, and even at the first few games this season, I thought, you know what a player he is. But he just didn't really seem to do it. Whenever I watched Arsenal, he was on the pitch very much, and when he was a bit struggling with the tempo of the league, if you like. But anyway, that's enough about Arsenal. We're going to talk about West Ham now. We'll get Alan's opinions on West Ham as well. Monday night home game means the boats are open. They're open before the game only. They're not open after because it's a midweek game. £2.50 for adults. Kids go free, as always. Link is in the description if you want to join us for a beer and a barbecue before the game. And hopefully we'll see some of you there. Team news. Pellegrini said that Antonio's a doubt for Monday night. So, this is where it gets interesting. The West Ham under-23s are playing tonight, which is Friday night, and they put the team up an hour before kickoff, and it had Nathan Holland in it, which would insinuate he's not in the squad for Monday and Antonio's fine. However, that team got brought down and a new one went up without Nathan Holland in it. So either the media team have ballsed up and Nathan Holland was never in the team and they put up the wrong template, or he's been taken out of the team at the last minute. It's one of the two. Which it is, we don't know. But given the media's history, if you like, you could probably say it's a mistake. But
recent form, Geo.
That's the recent form. The fact of the matter is, Nathan Holland is not playing for the 23s tonight. He didn't play, so you have to assume he's in the squad, which might indicate that Michail Antonio is in fact going to be missing Monday. However, for the context of this preview, we're going to assume he is fit because we both scribbled down our teams and we both got Antonio in it probably. So for the sake of that, but before we get on to Gonzo's team, Alan, what's your thoughts on West Ham's season so far?
Well, of course, it was a really difficult first fixture, and that always seems to be the case. And even in that game against Manchester City, I actually thought there were flashes that, it sounds ridiculous in a 5-0, but flashes of good football and at least an identity and a way that West Ham wanted to play. And previous to that, in the Betway Cup, all right, it's only a friendly, but I thought Haller looked fantastic in that game. And I actually thought, look, it's a tough start to the season, but I think they'll pick up after that. They then went, was it Brighton? The draw at Brighton after that? But the game after that, the Watford game, and then the home game against Norwich. The home game against Norwich is some of the best football I've ever seen West Ham play. And what we've been sponsors for five years now. I think the second goal in that game was one of the best goals I've seen West Ham score in that time. Passing move from front to back. And that made it 3 straight wins, including the win at Newport. And you thought, this is a different West Ham, and it looks as though there's options in every single position, and there were players to come back. I'm really optimistic. And then the game against Manchester United, winning 2-0 there. If you'd have said to me at the end of that game, after obviously Cresswell scores his free kick, if you'd have said to me that the next run would be 8 matches without a win, I just wouldn't have believed you. And the way that it's gone downhill so quickly, we can point to injuries, we can point to different circumstances, and a little bit of misfortune, but I just really couldn't see that when you were sort of at 22nd of September, home against Manchester United, choosing the man of the match and thinking this is a really optimistic time at the club. And the Chelsea win, that is great in isolation, and we know that the club are capable of that. Even in bad times, there'll be a result against one of those big teams that makes everybody stand up The Wolves game I haven't seen. I don't know how they played at Wolves. I'm reading reports saying that they weren't too bad at Wolves. So maybe this is a mid-season rally, and I tell you what, there's no better opposition to be taking on than Arsenal on Monday night.
There's possibly no better opposition for Arsenal as well, but we'll touch on that in a second. Gonzo, your 11 please. Changes are required, or maybe just change in, I don't know. What's your 11, please?
I don't know. I've got and only Antonio up front. Really. I tell you what I would do though.
Wait. You've not got Snodgrass in there, have you?
I have, yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought he'd be the first one out after the review.
No, he was really poor. He was really poor. But I felt, I know everyone thinks the formation was the same, but I felt in Wolves he was asked to get wider more than he was against Chelsea. I thought he tucked in more central against Chelsea, which is what I've written down on a bit of paper. So I'd almost like Snodgrass, Noble, and Rice to be almost like a compact. I was going to say a diamond. Three can't be a diamond, can it? A triangle, almost a little compact triangle in there. And I'd like Fornals and Anderson to have very much free roles, lots of changing, pulling out wide if they need to, doing some surprising stuff there. So just a little tweak with the shape. If we're going to have Snodgrass's industry, let's have it in the middle, basically. Listen, without going back onto Arsenal, we don't know what's going to happen with Ozil, but by all accounts, by all reports, he was walking around last night, so I don't have to worry about that too much. And then just Antonio's endeavour really up front with him running around. I just think again, I think we go for a very similar thing to what we did at Chelsea.
Mine's not too different from yours. I put my team up on Twitter and everybody started replying saying I'm being festive because I went with the Christmas tree formation. I can assure you it's not because it's festive.
That is lovely. That's lovely. That's very lovely.
Gonzo will reassure you it's not festive on my case. But the back four, I wouldn't change the centre backs. I'd be open to changing Creswell for Masuaku and Fredericks for Johnson. I don't think he will, but I'm open to it. I don't think either of them. Creswell's not done too much wrong, but I just want to see a bit more from going forward from the left back. And Masuaku's just faster, that's all. But if Johnson's fit, I think I'd take him in for Fredericks. I'm just not sold on Fredericks at all. He doesn't offer enough going forward. For someone that's so fast, you'd expect your right back to produce 3 good crosses a game. I can't remember the last time he's done one. The last time he's put in a cross, I thought, oh, fantastic ball, Fredericks, well done. It just doesn't really happen enough. So for that, I'd change it. I'd have Noble, Rice, and I'd actually have Fornals in there. You say a tight 3 in the midfield, I would do the same, but it would be Fornals I would drop in because I think he's starting to show a little bit of the hustle and bustle of the Premier League. I think he's starting to get it a little bit. Whether that's he's got to get rid of the ball quicker or whether he's just got to be a bit tougher. I think it's starting to click a little bit. I think he's starting to do that. Maybe something Cabellos couldn't do at Arsenal. I think Fornals is maybe starting to do that a little bit more. And Arsenal, for all their players you think of, Xhaka and Guendouzi and Torreira, and you might think, ooh, tough tackling. I'm not convinced they are, you know. I think they've got a dirty angle to their game where they'll foul you rather than let you run past them and stuff. I think Guendouzi is a really good tackler, but I don't think they're as tough as they used to be. They certainly used to have a reputation of being hard men in midfield. I don't think they've got that anymore, so I'm not too scared about Fornals now. Now to have Anderson and Antonio just behind Sebastian Adler. I thought Anderson, you said you noticed a tweak in formation between Chelsea and Wolves. I did too, but it was more with Felipe Anderson. I thought Felipe Anderson was much more of a second striker against Wolves. I would do that again, but I'd also have Antonio as a second striker as well, so they're both up there alongside Haller in almost 3 roles like you say, because I watched Arsenal against Brighton, I watched Arsenal against Norwich, and it's not difficult. It is not difficult to get into the Arsenal box or get around the Arsenal box. They were literally just walking through the midfield last night. Brighton were just running through there. Pascal Gross, Davy Proper, Dale Stevens, Trossard, when he came on, at one point ran around about 7 of their players and got a shot off. It's not difficult. This is one of the easiest teams we will face in terms of defence. They've got talent going forward, but defensively, they're a shambles, and we need to capitalise on that. I want to see Pellegrini pick up the kitchen sink and throw at Arsenal on Monday and say, do you know something? If we get beat, Arsenal are going to have to score 3 to beat us, because Norwich scored 2 against them, Brighton scored 2 against them, so we can't score 2 against them. What's the point? You know, we're coming up against the leakiest defence in the league at the minute. We've got to do something. Alan, what West Ham players are you fearing the most? Like, who are you looking at in our team thinking he's going to cause Arsenal problems?
You mentioned Antonio's injury. I just think that if you get Arsenal into that midfield battle that you mentioned, I know Gonzo was saying that he likes Torreira, but Torreira got bullied last night. He really did. He's a small player, and I think people have sussed him out. And I think Brighton sussed him out pretty quickly last night. He didn't really give Xhaka much support in a lot of situations. So as you say, it's very, very easy to get running at our two centre-backs. And they are a bit of a circus back there. And that area just in front of our penalty area, I think West Ham will get a lot of joy there. And I would almost be tempted to play one of Snodgrass or Noble a bit further forward and just take advantage of the fact that Arsenal like playing it out with... they like playing it out from the keeper to Xhaka or Torreira, who then would have their backs to the West Ham goal. And we've lost the ball so many times in that situation, and someone like Noble just up there snapping at their heels, I think will create a hell of a lot. The more I think about this game and the more I listen to you guys talk, the more I think that the West Ham will have a hell of a lot of joy. And I can't see Arsenal keeping a clean sheet. I really.
No, me neither, to be honest with you. But the problem is, I can't see West Ham keeping a clean sheet either. Gonzo, are you confident for this one?
Extremely.
This has got to be the best opposition for Pellegrini. I mean, arguably it's the best opposition for Ljungberg as well. But Pellegrini's not going to get better because on paper Arsenal should be better than us. But they've not won a game for 2 months. They're in horrendous form. They've got a manager he's out of his depth managing Arsenal. It's not his fault. He's been promoted from the coach. He's only doing a temporary job, but he's out of his depth. We have to take advantage of this. They looked like shambles against Brighton. They looked an absolute mess. The players in the wrong positions, and the players that were in the wrong position didn't want to be on the pitch almost. Pellegrini really has captain. Anyway, sorry, you're extremely confident.
I am extremely confident. I cannot see any other result aside from a West Ham win here. And I've predicted losses, I think, in our last 4 or 5 games. But this is, I think it'll be a convincing win with, many. But I just think we're going to attack a lot. I think sometimes you dither. And I've spoken about this before. I've spoken about it with West Ham. And I think it's okay to sack your manager if you think that that's the right thing to do, and if you don't think he can take you any further. Clearly what Arsenal have done. But if you're going to do that, then you better have a real clear purpose and a very, very clear idea about what you're going to do. And it seems like they haven't. It seems like they sacked him. They knew they wanted to sack him without really giving any thought to who they wanted to come in. And maybe West Ham board haven't done that. Maybe they, and actually I think in this instance, actually the stability of the manager remaining there supersedes the instability of somebody coming in and what is a rash decision. It's not the decision that's rash, it's the half decision that seems to be the problem. And I do think that's going to cost them, because they've not even had the uplift from Ljungberg, that caretaker uplift coming in, so yeah, I am confident for this one. I think this is almost the one where Pellegrini saves his job for the remainder of the season, actually.
Alan, as an Arsenal fan, are you confident for this one?
No, not at all. And I've tried to look at it from an optimistic point of view. Actually, when I arrived at the game against Brighton last night, I thought to myself, well, at least we created more chances against Norwich on the Sunday. And I don't know I know obviously you like your stats, Geo, but the XG, the expected goals, Arsenal actually improved their count against Norwich. So you did think that at least, well, although the result wasn't great against Norwich, the performance, if you just looked at the bare face of the stats, it seemed as if there was an upward turn of Arsenal being able to attack a team and actually getting the ball forward quick. And in the first 10 minutes against Brighton last night, we did actually do that. We transitioned the ball really quickly from front to back. From back to front. And I actually thought, well, at least we'll get lots of chances here, even though the passing seems a bit disjointed. I think we'll get lots of chances. But Potter, give him credit, he really sussed it out. He sussed it out within about 10 minutes that our fullbacks were being asked to get forward the whole length of their wings, not just leaving huge gaps. Exploited those gaps. Look what it's doing with this Arsenal team, and in the first few minutes, work it out. I can see West Ham winning this one.
Interesting. I'm confident as well. I think this is the best game Pellegrini could hope for. A big team. Listen, you can argue about whether they're a good team or not. They're a big club, Arsenal. Big club, walking up, beating them. Scary stat. Gonzo, can we include Watford as London for 30 seconds? Do you
my friend, you are in Scotland. You can include most places in the world as London.
well, here's a scary stat for you. West Ham, including Watford as London, West Ham not won outside of London since December 2018. It's been a year since West Ham won outside of London. So what does that tell you? We're crap away from London, but when we play in London, we're not too bad. Listen, Pellegrini pissed off a lot of people after Wolves by saying our home games are more important. Well, what you've also done here is you've put extra pressure on yourself on Monday night, because you've just told us that Arsenal at home is more important than Wolves away, okay? Now, there's no shame in getting beat by Wolves away. I don't think there was any shame in that. But when you then turn around and say, well, the home games are more important, you better damn win. You've got to make sure you win your home ones, because we're not won at home since September, I don't think. So you need to do something that says, there's your win. And this is where it gets a bit funny, because I think we'll beat Arsenal, but I then think, regardless of whether we beat Arsenal, I think we'll go on to lose against Southampton. We'll be back in the Pellegrini in, out, merry-go-round, hokey-cokey thing. But I'm confident. I am confident, because Arsenal have been conceding 2 goals a game recently. Surely even we can score a couple on Monday. But before I get these 2 score predictions, as you know, we do a charity bet with Betway. Every week they put a virtual £50 on with the winners going to a charity. I'm going with what Gonzo thinks, what I think, and what Alan's hinting to. West Ham to win, both teams to score 3 or more corners each, and over 3.5 cards in the game. So we need 4 bookings or more in the game. Do you know why I'm doing that, Gonzo?
I don't know. I would have gone for 10 or more corners each. I don't know what the odds are for that.
Mike Dean is the referee.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so while the 2 circuses are playing each other, we have the ringmaster in town as well. He's going to be orchestrating the battle of the circuses. And there's going to be cards on Monday night. Cards galore. It's the Mike Dean show. Gonzo, kick us off, please. Can I get your score prediction?
Okay, this is predicated upon the fact that Ljungberg is still in charge. Okay, do not rule out, because it would be very, very West Ham. I don't know, for Arsenal to discover that I don't know, Bill Shankly and Brian Clough secretly had a child some years ago, and he's actually been jettisoned in to manage Arsenal, and they get some tactical genius in there, and they thrash us, and they get the uplift from a brand new manager. But if things stay the same, we beat Arsenal 3-1.
Interesting. Alan, can I get your score prediction as well, please?
I'm going to go for 4-2. 4-2 to West Ham.
Goals. I'm going in the middle of these. I'm also doing this on the fact that Freddie's in charge. I actually think Arsenal are waiting for Ancelotti. I think Ancelotti's maybe going to get the sack. If he's not already got the sack at time of recording, I think Ancelotti might be able to get the sack this weekend. And if that happens, I wouldn't be surprised if Alan's on the phone to someone at Betway saying, bring Ancelotti's odds in a little bit, will you?
He's probably extending the odds after he's heard your tip, to be perfectly honest with you.
No. But also Pochettino, he said in Argentina he's coming over for a project soon. In Munich have ruled him out, and he's ruled Everton out. So there's something in the works with Pochettino. But I think Ancelotti. I would not be surprised if Ancelotti's the next Arsenal manager. Anyway, I'm going to go for 3-2. 3-2 West Ham. You can join us on Monday night. Myself and Gonzo aren't going to game. His wife's working. I live in Aberdeen. I ain't going down there on a Monday night. So you can come back on Monday. Join us for the Roo. Hopefully celebrating 3 points. Because sometimes it's difficult to get angry when you expect a loss, like Wolves. But we're expecting wins. So if we don't win on Monday, you might get angry, Gonzo. You might get angry, Geo. Thank you for joining us on this preview. Alan, thank you for coming on. As always, massively appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Guys.
Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. All the links you need are in the description. Subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll see you on Monday. Catch you in a bit.